Hi everybody, I am here with Darryl Jelly, one half of Eversley California's playoff winning management team. Darryl, you and Mitch Cooper have taken Eversley and California to heights they've never previously seen. Welcome.
Yeah, no, thanks very much. It's certainly been an enjoyable and interesting last 6 months with the club, and as you say, getting them to a place where they haven't been before, kind of rounded it off quite nicely.
You guys came in December with the club. I can't remember. You were certainly outside the playoffs, but you've led a remarkable rise. I know there was quite a few players leave when you guys came in. I don't suppose that's a reflection on you, but they had a couple of their top goal scorer left and a few other players. How did you manage all of that?
Yeah, there was certainly some talented players that left. Players that I've worked with previously. Charlie Oakley, a fantastic goal scorer at this level, decided to leave the club, which was a bit gutting for us, but completely understand his reasons why. And then as you mentioned, the top goal scorer Will May, who would still be the club's top goal scorer at the end of the season, leave to, I think, go and join Godalming, and by all means by the sounds of it, do pretty well for himself over there. For us, really, it was a case of leaning on sort of players that had played for Eversley previously. They'd had some really successful seasons the last couple of years. They'd reached the playoffs. Unfortunately, not getting to the playoff final last year. But for us, it was certainly a case of a quick turnaround of a couple of days, trying to bring some players in. Had a local derby against Yateley in our first few days, which we won. Obviously, very pleased to win that game. But yeah, real quick turnaround to bring in players that we knew we could trust and could help us get to where we wanted to be come the end of the season.
And obviously, you finished fourth in the division, which meant you were third in the playoffs. And that pitted you against Penn Tylers Green, who possibly between them and Westside in any other season may well be looking at being champions. That's no tall order to go up against them, and obviously it went to penalties.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, getting into the playoffs was our first sort of soft goal. Nothing we ever really mentioned to the players. It was all kind of a lot about enjoying our football, stringing a run of wins together, and seeing how we could finish off. So yeah, getting in the playoffs was the first goal. Achieved that, and then as you say, Penn Tylers Green, a club that I know very well. Spent a season there 2 or 3 years ago under the assistant manager of Michael Herbert, spent a really good season there, a really enjoyable season, and they have a very, very talented squad that should not be playing Step 6 football. A lot of them don't. A lot of them play Step 4, Step 5 football, and play for Penn Tylers Green when the time arises. They went 1-0 up. We scored goals in the 83rd, 89th, and 89th minute to think that we'd got ourselves through the easy way. And they scored an absolutely fantastic goal in the 96th minute that we could have defended a little bit better, but at the end of the day, you can't really argue against it. And we held our own and penalties, and the relief of getting through that would have probably been enough for us. Would have enjoyed that day of just getting to a final. But as you say.
We'll come on to the final in just a minute, but in a roundabout way, as these things tend to go with us. Something just caught my eye, and it reminded me that obviously on the final day of the regular season, you guys were playing Windsor.
Yes,
and obviously, I think one of your former clubs, Woodley United, was battling against getting out. It was between Windsor or Woodley. Were you aware of? I assume you knew what your game against Windsor meant.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were also aware that Woodley had done us a favour a couple of weeks a couple of days prior by beating Kensington. By beating Hillingdon. Sorry,
Yes.
to consolidate our place in the playoffs. So would have only been right if we'd have tried to do something, to help them back out. Unfortunately, left it a little bit, nervy towards the end, and Windsor certainly piled players forwards in the
Yeah.
last few minutes to try and get the winner that they needed to keep themselves up.
Yeah.
We managed to hold out, and at that point, do our local friends at Woodley
Yeah.
a bit of a favour.
I was at Woodley for the second half, and obviously they've gone 5-0 up, and you're thinking, "God, this is meant to be." And then obviously, and you guys are 2-0 up, and then you see it go 2-1, and then you see late on it's 2-2. And you think, "Oh God, this is going to be awful, isn't it? This is how it's going to go. They're going to score." But yeah, it was quite. There was a gentle roar went up at
Yeah.
Woodley when the football web pages ticked over to full time on your game.
Yeah, well, these things have a bit of an interesting way of coming back around, don't they? So they helped us out. Woodley helped us out by beating Hillingdon. Hopefully, we did them a small favour by kind of drawing with Windsor. So yeah, they all comes full circle, doesn't it? In the end.
Yeah, all good fun, mate. All good fun. Well, so let's take it to the playoff final then, because Westside obviously had gone back and forth with Windsor and Eton, obviously the ultimate champions in the end, but. West, it had gone down almost to the final, to the wire, that title, and then so for you guys to come up, and I think it's fair to say a veteran of Eversley in California, pretty much married into the Eversley in California family, hasn't he? Joe Pantoni gets the only goal of the game. 339 people. Now I know that in the grand scheme of things, as a crowd, that doesn't seem a lot, but at step 6, that's a lot, right?
It's a lot, and when you looked round at the crowd, as much as you could whilst the sort of game was going on, it was a who's who of combined counties football. To be honest, it was Matt was there from Windsor and Eton. Lovely to see him. A good guy. I've worked with him previously as well, and obviously wish him all the success there. But yeah, it was a who's who of of combined counties football. To be honest, so yeah, it was really nice. And as you mentioned, for Panto to kind of get that winner, I think he's asking when the statue is going to be built for him. He ticked off his 250th game for the club earlier in the season, which again at this level is some feat. And I think if we were to stay in a job, keeping him in the squad there was vital. Don't want to upset too many people, so no. But he's been absolutely fantastic as the captain, leading us along with a lot of the players. But for him to score that goal that meant a lot to the club and him and his family, it was fantastic. And the only downside is that he won't shut up about it now. So we're going to have to try and do something next year to kind of get that feat out of the memory.
There's just looking at the team sheet here on football web pages. Really interesting. You can sort of see that obviously you guys scored early and made one substitute. Westside 5. They were obviously like, we've got to try and turn this around, and it just didn't happen for them.
Yeah, I think. Do you know what? It's full credit to our team. I think that may be slightly incorrect. We did make our full amount of subs, but they were all towards the end. We had every single one of our players throwing their bodies in front of the ball. If people did come off, they weren't happy about coming off. Let's put it that way, which is fantastic. You obviously want to see that. But yeah, we've said from the start that it's been a squad effort. We haven't bought in players to kind of bought in players from higher. We haven't sort of reached out to people to kind of play one-off games. It's been the 20 or 21 man squad that we've had since December, really, and all credit to them.
moving ahead, then how do you look at this summer? Because of course, Step 5 is a completely different thing.
Yeah.
You saw Berks County go up, and they've obviously come straight back down again.
Mm.
But you would have probably at the start of the season, I'd have felt pretty certain that Berks County would be okay, and obviously they've not quite managed it. Almost
Mm.
like a hair's width.
Yeah.
They've not quite managed it, but how do you look at that? Because obviously it's new for Eversley, the ground as well. There's probably work got to be done on the ground to keep you up there next year.
Hmm.
Um, so what are you looking at for next season then? Because it's a few less games though. That's the only positive.
Yeah, a few less games. Hopefully, we'll make up for those. Those few less games by maybe winning an FA Cup game or a couple of Vars games to kind of make up for it. But yeah, we've had a. I know that Martin Elcock's chairman's had a chat with ground graders. I know that we've probably got to switch our dugouts next season so that we're in one that's slightly restricted to kind of get out of a situation that would
Mhm.
cost us a lot of money to make amendments to our pitch. We had a working party of players down at the ground on Sunday to kind of get some renovations started. So I think when you ask about how we're gonna tackle Step 5, the fact that it is the end of May when people should be relaxing, and 10 of our players are down there filling in holes in the pitch, picking up rubbish, painting goalposts, moving bits around. We won't have a budget next year. We won't be paying any
Mhm.
players, and we're going into we've come from a league where people are, and we're going into a league where people are definitely paying
Yeah,
players. So it's going to be that team spirit, that team, that the team ethic that kind of gets us through, and that'll hopefully be enough to kind of keep us up, and then we can work from there.
you talk about paying players. Is that going to be frustrating to you? Do you think? Because there is definitely the possibility any of your lads do well.
Mm,
They could come at But I'm firmly of the belief that if someone wants to come and pay a player a couple
mm,
of £100 or even £100 or £50, if they can earn a
yeah.
bit of extra money on the side, then and they're going somewhere that they're going to play, then
Mm.
that's totally worth their while. But is this? Do you think? Can you see this being a frustration? I mean, I assume your answer is going to be no, it'd be fine. But like going up without a budget, that is. The cynical would listen to you there and going, "Well, you're going straight back down again." What do you think?
Perfect. Do you know what that cynic that says that is fuel for the fire. So that's exactly what I want to hear, and I'm assuming that's exactly what the group want to hear. I'm trying not to name too many names, so our players go a little bit under the
Yeah.
radar, and so people don't kind of get to know our players a bit too much. So listen, yeah, we've got a great group. It wouldn't be a surprise if people did come and say, let's chuck some money at some of the Eversley lads
Mhm.
because let's see if they're tempted by it. I would like to think that Mitch and I have created an environment both on and off the pitch that wouldn't persuade people to kind of move for a bit of money.
Mhm.
I couldn't blame them if they did. And at the end of the day, it's my job and Mitch's job to develop these young players so that they can play at the highest level possible. Hopefully that's with Eversley. If that isn't, then we wish them all the success. We've got a great youth set up at the club. We've got a decent under 23 team. We've got a decent under 18 team. And we've got some fantastic players coming through. We've had 4 or 5 of those young lads really into themselves into the first team this year, and long may that continue. But yeah, as I say, I'm trying to keep our players a little bit under the radar so nobody notices who they are,
Yeah.
and in the attempt to try and keep them for as long as possible
Yeah.
because they're a brilliant bunch.
I think you can probably Joe. You can probably definitely mention he's not going anywhere, is he? Let's
Oh,
face it.
he's married in. He's got kids in.
Mm.
He's fully cemented in the club. Yeah, I can't imagine him going anywhere.
So let's just talk slightly wider about the club. Then, obviously, it's a club that typically is a Step 6 club. You've
Hmm.
been up, and before you guys arrived, the club's sort of been largely top half of the table, and obviously Matty Angel at Windsor was was one of the previous managers of the club, and
Mm.
sort of developed that team over a period of time. What's for the club itself? I know there's obviously a new women's team, or the return of the women's team this coming season. Like, how much involvement do you have in the club as a wider thing? And is I presume that's important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if there was an area of development for us from last year, and this is going to be a little bit contradictory to what I just said about the players, but trying to get some more eyes on us.
Mm,
I think we have flown under the radar. You mentioned people were looking at Westside, your Penn Tylers Greens,
mm,
even Bellstone for a large
mm,
part of that season, and we've definitely gone under the radar. I think having the ladies team come back can only strengthen the club. I was privileged to be part of Craig Garepo's pre-season trials a couple of weeks ago. They got some fantastic players down there, some from his previous teams and some new or returning to football. We're looking at strengthening the club with with another team. Can't go into too much detail about that at the moment, but we're looking to strengthen the club with another team that would help feed players into the men's first team. And yeah, Martin's very very open as a chairman. The board are very open about their plans for expansion and having as many teams as possible. But the returning ladies team can only strengthen the club as a whole. And as I said, the aim is to bring as many eyes to Eversley as we can do.
Well, let's see what next season brings, Darryl. Are you sort of saying under the radar? I know. I feel like Virginia Water do something very similar in the Premier
Mm,
Division North. They're always there or thereabouts. They're there. There's sort of it's a very small club, but it's a club that I don't think it's unfair to say punches above its weight a little bit, and they're always there. They've got some good solid players that have been there a long time as well. And if
mm.
you guys can get anywhere close to that kind of, I mean, what is your aim for next season? I mean, I guess even staying up on goal difference would be your minimum aim, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Consolidation. I think we've really been successful this year by taking it, as much as just a cliche, by taking it one game at a time. So for us, let's just take it one game at a time, see where that gets us at Christmas, and then kind of see what we can do. But yeah, ultimately, the first aim is to. We've got this club to Step 5 football. Let's try and keep them there, and then build on from that. But yeah, as much as we can do to get further up the table would be an absolute dream. So yeah,
Darryl Jelly, thank you very much.
no, my pleasure. Thanks so much, Tom.